Texas plays Iowa State Saturday night. I know what some of you are thinking, but you need to lock in for a second. Saturday, 8 o'clock on Fox. That's your first sign. We got a night game at Jack Trice Stadium. What have I told you? What did Meemaw tell me about night games at Iowa State? I don't remember. Meemaw didn't mention Iowa State very much, but it's not going to be easy for Texas. All that talk about Texas, by the way, in the Big 12 championship picture, you know Iowa State is still alive. Even as we speak, if you hear that faint squeaking sound, if you hear the sound of mice on wheels, those are Big 10 administrators, Big 12 administrators, trying to figure out the tiebreaker scenarios out there. Crazy stuff. Like I've been texting back and forth with some people on different staffs that are involved in the multi-team potential tiebreaker process, where the rules are changing literally today. They are changing the rules. Crazy. The best thing you can just do is win and let the chips fall where they may. Remember back in 2011, there were a lot of extenuating circumstances. There was tragedy in the mix with Oklahoma State. They had to go on the road Thursday night at Iowa State. They lose. They're out of the national championship. I was in a movie theater watching the movie J. Edgar, as I recall, with, it's not important who I was with. What's important is I don't remember anything about the movie. I can go to Hoover's Wikipedia page. Don't know how much I trust it. I can go there and read up on the guy. I don't remember the movie because my phone started to blow up. I was so sure. I mean, that game was so far off my radar, I didn't even bother to watch it. And I learned that night, anything can happen in college football in November. I am looking for a one-night-only special here. If I'm trying to paint the path, if I'm trying to kind of pave the path for an upset for Iowa State, if you look at the season-long stat profile, you're just going to convince yourself Texas wins. But sometimes in college football, we get a one-night-only special. You've seen it. I've seen it. We've all seen it. Some quarterback plays 30% above his skis, one night only. And then he regresses right back to what the stat profile says he should be. Rocco Becht, who, by the way, is the Iowa State quarterback, that's a good trivia question to try on your quote-unquote die-hard college football fan buddy at the water cooler tomorrow. Hey, give me Iowa State's quarterback. He probably doesn't know who it is because Iowa State is 78th throwing the ball through the air this year. Texas is glaringly vulnerable through the air right now, though. You know what? I mentioned the other night, they've had 3 games where they've allowed 3 possession leads to evaporate and almost lost them, but ended up not losing any of them. But in those 3 games where they give up those big leads, they've given up 674 yards through the air just in the second halves of those games. So if it's happened against Houston, you know, if it's happened with those other 2 games, in translation, I don't remember them off the top of my head, it could happen. JP, Angels in the outfield, flap the wings, it could happen. This is the first game for Texas without Jonathan Brooks. And I think the competitive nature in that locker room is such that guys are going to step up. Okay, so I don't think Texas is going to go on the road and just look like a deer in headlights. This is an underrated Iowa State defense, though. It's the best pass defense Texas will have seen since Bama. And I know you remember in the end, Quinn Ewers making some plays through the air. And that thing was like 13-9 late in the third quarter. So it's not like Texas just bombed away from the outset. Bama muddied that game up early. Iowa State, similarly, especially without Brooks, who flashed on the scene against Bama and is now out. If no one steps up, like if Worthy or A.D. Mitchell, Jatavian Sanders, like if those guys don't step up, if Baxter at running back, if they don't carry the load like they're capable of, you let them hang around, they can beat you. This is Matt Campbell's shot now. Steve Sarkisian, we all know it's his shot. Like he's got the best team he's had at Texas. But Campbell, think about this. At Iowa State, 4-8 last year, and people start talking. And he lost 8 of his final 9 last year, and people really started talking. And then they lost 3 of their first 5 this year, and people really, really started talking. And now they've won 4 of their last 5. And they're playing their best football right now. And they blew out Brigham Young on the road last week. Everyone's had this game circled. When Texas comes to town, it's always a circle game. Back-to-back road stretch for Texas. Let's take a look at what the model thinks. FanDuel number, Texas minus 7.5. The Pate State model is a little bit shorter. Pate State model has Texas minus 5. Now, I have bias here. I am Iowa State. Naturally, growing up in West Central Georgia, I was a diehard Iowa State Cyclone fan growing up. But you got to understand something. When your mascot is a literal tornado and you got the Hulk Hogan color scheme, if you operate at peak efficiency, nothing can stand in your way. Nothing can stand up to you. Unfortunately, Iowa State hasn't quite been all of that recently. I don't have a ton of confidence either way in this one, so I'm going to trust the model implicitly. And I'm going to take Iowa State to cover the number, and I'm going to take Texas to win yet another close game. And if it turns out that way, it would be right in line. It would be right on brand for what Texas has been lately. They've had to win some close games. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course, until you get to the postseason and realize the caliber of opponent has upgraded significantly. But worry about that when you get there. Texas needs to worry about winning, whether it's by 1 or 100.